have a literary confession. Wuthering Heights was my least favorite book in high school. Back then, it felt dark, confusing, and exhausting. The kind of story that leaves you thinking, why did anyone make me read this? Almost 15 years later, I decided to give it a second chance. I wondered if adult perspective, more life experience, or even a softer heart might help me see something I'd missed as a teenager. I thought my opinion might change, that maybe I'd missed something important the first time, and that now I'd finally understand it in a different, more favorable light. Well, the results are in. It turns out I didn't change my mind, and this time I didn't even finish it. But here's the difference. This time there was no assignment looming over me. I had the choice to walk away. And when I did, I realized it wasn't the writing that bothered me, it was the tone. The story is heavy, the relationships are stormy, and the drama is relentless. Even so, I still came away with what I needed. Meaningful lessons about human behavior, patterns, and the way stories can teach us, even when they aren't enjoyable. Walking away didn't feel like giving up. It felt like making space for the insights that mattered. This is my first ever DNF episode, but it reminded me that sometimes learning is more important than finishing. And sometimes revisiting something old simply confirms what you already knew. The woman behind the book. Learning a bit about Emily Brontë helped me understand Wuthering Heights, not to justify its heaviness, but to see it through a more human lens. Emily lived a quiet, mostly solitary life. She loved the wild, windswept Yorkshire moors, often walking alone and immersed in nature. She experienced profound loss as a young girl with the death of her mother and 2 older sisters, and grew up around grief, which shaped her perspective, but also gave her a deep, rich inner world. She poured that intensity into her writing. Wuthering Heights isn't a cozy romance. And despite what some recent films might suggest, it's not really a love story. It's a gothic tale that explores obsession, pride, revenge, and the stormier corners of the human heart. And since Emily passed away young, it's the only novel she ever wrote. Understanding this gave me a new appreciation for the book's intensity. Emily wasn't trying to comfort her readers. She was channeling her raw, passionate, and profoundly human emotions. That perspective helped me see why the story feels so powerful. More cautionary than romantic, even if it's still not my favorite read. And here's the hopeful part. Amid all the storminess, the novel hints at a new beginning. The younger generation, at the end, steps into a different kind of life, free from some of the patterns from the past. It reminded me that even in heavy stories, there still is hope. And sometimes, the lesson we need most come from the parts we least enjoy. Breaking the cycle of hurt. On my reread, I was surprised that none of the characters felt particularly likable. Of course, I'm used to villains in stories, but normally there's at least one person to root for. The absence of that is exactly Emily's point. Hurt people hurt people. The book shows a very sad reality in our fallen world. People who feel abused, neglected, or wronged often take out that pain on others. Nearly every character is shaped by unhealed hurt, and it's a sobering reminder of how easily pain can ripple through families and generations. Even the younger generation isn't easy to root for at first. And honestly, can you blame them? They were raised in the same storm of hurt, pride, and resentment that shaped everyone else, negatively. But by the end, they begin to choose differently. They grow gentler. They show kindness where cruelty once ruled. They choose peace over pride and healing over revenge. It's subtle, but it's there. A quiet reminder that the patterns we inherit aren't the ones we have to pass on. What struck me most is that the story doesn't end in total darkness. Young Catherine and Hareton serve as a gentle reminder that we're not doomed to repeat emotional patterns. We get to write a better chapter for ourselves, for others, and for the generations to come. No matter how bleak circumstances may seem, or even truly be, change can begin with the choices we make today. what this book reminded me about love. Revisiting Wuthering Heights reminded me that not all intensity is love. Just because a relationship feels passionate, dramatic, or all-consuming does not mean it's healthy. Watching the characters' stormy, destructive patterns unfold made me appreciate what real love should feel like. Steady, safe, and life-giving. Love shouldn't leave you constantly anxious or on edge. It shouldn't feel like a storm you're trying to survive. It should feel like home, a place of comfort, trust, and peace. And while Emily Bronte's story explores the darker extremes of human emotion, it also reminded me why choosing gentleness, care, and steadiness in love matters so much in real life. Beyond earthly relationships, I'm grateful that our Heavenly Father models a steady, unfailing love, one that doesn't waver with circumstances. That truth gives hope that cycles of hurt can be broken, both in families and in our hearts. The librarian thoughts. Wuthering Heights is far from my favorite. And like I said, I didn't even finish it this time. But that's not what matters. What stayed with me are the lessons it quietly offered. How pain and hurt can ripple through generations. How people can choose differently. And how gentleness, compassion, and hope can prevail despite the stormiest circumstances. Even in darkness, there is always redemption. No story and no person has ever fallen too far. I'm drawn to stories that uplift, encourage, and point toward what is true, noble, right, and pure. And yet, I'm reminded that even the darkest tales can still point toward hope. That's all for now. Take care, stay curious, and I'll see you next time.